Hey guys, it's Meg. Today we are going over the 12.1 guide for Mistweaver. Before we get into talents or anything, I want to give you an introduction to the spec and what you can expect if you want to play it in keys. First and foremost, Mistweaver is a melee spec. We have heavy reliance on our melee uptime and other melee abilities. We are one of 2 melee healers in the game, so we are non-traditional. We are assigned melee mechanics and we cannot take range-specific mechanics. Some of our utility, as well as all of our damage and a majority of our healing, is dependent on us being in melee range, hitting mobs. This is usually the hardest part of the spec for a lot of people. If you are coming from a melee DPS or a tank, then it's not too much of an adjustment, but if you're more used to a traditional or a range healer, then there will be more of a learning curve. Mistweaver relies on a combination of damage conversion and casted spells and hots. You should never solely rely on one or the other since it's not designed this way, and you're going to make it significantly weaker and way harder than it should be. This is also completely ignoring healer DPS over the course of a dungeon. It doesn't matter whether or not you personally find it relevant for your level of play, but the interactions that our damaging abilities have outside of just doing damage do impact the entire kit and playstyle of the spec. We are a higher APM spec. We highly value haste and we are melee, so our APM is definitely on the higher end. Generally, it is our melee abilities, but we do have a lot of avenues for instant cast spells as well. Mistweaver should basically always be casting something, whether it is applying hots as you're running between packs, DPSing for your cooldowns or for your maintenance healing, or casting a spell if you cannot get into melee. There's basically always something that Mistweaver can be doing. Even if it's not healing, you can still be doing damage. From this build, we have Haste and Crit as our top 2 stats, and Mastery and Verse as our bottom 2. Haste is by far our best, and Crit follows close behind. And this is basically the opposite stat priority of the Mastery build. We are aiming for as little Mastery as possible here. This is more focusing on healing outside of Chi and is a bit more of a traditional Mistweaver stat prio that we've been seeing for a very long time. The best races for Mythic Plus in general are Night Elf and Dwarf. I tend to prefer being Night Elf on healers just for Shadow Meld so that you can use it to drop combat, to res, or to drink. It's also really helpful for white protection and any other skips. Then Mistweaver tends to do a lot of skips just because we are so quick. Dwarf would be my second choice, especially in seasons with a lot of bleeds. This is very useful, so if you don't want to be a Night Elf, then Dwarf would be the backup. For our talents, class talents are mostly utility. With this build, it does take all of the throughput nodes, and the only things that really change are the utility nodes that will swap based on the dungeon. These are Disable, Improve Detox, Pressure Points, Diffuse Magic, Swift Art, and potentially Link Spirits. Still Step Coil and Disable are basically the same. Disable is a single target slow, and Still Step Coil is an AoE slow that applies Disable, but it does require you to leg sweep, so that is up to you, that is personal preference or dungeon requirements. On my website, on the dungeon overview page, I will have all of these listed out for each dungeon and the abilities that they are used for. For the spec tree with a more normal stat prio, the main changes here are dropping anything to do with mastery, so no Crane Style and no Morning Breeze, instead taking Vital Expenditure, Peaceful Mending, and our Apex talents. We're also dropping Emperor's Elixir, which I don't love, but unfortunately the Apex talents are all or nothing and everything else is needed for pathing. The main things you would swap in this build are the Gift of the Celestials and Jade Bond, depending on if you want a shorter cooldown on Chi, or a longer duration but longer cooldown, and that mostly just depends on the dungeon. For our hero talents, we are still playing Conduit of the Celestials. This gives you an additional button to press as a cooldown, which we'll go over later, and Heart of the Jade Serpent, which is a buff and it gives you cooldown reduction on some of our most important abilities. Our other hero talent is unlikely to be played unless there are some major nerfs to Conduit and major buffs to Master of Harmony. They haven't touched it for all of Midnight at this point, so I wouldn't expect to be playing Master of Harmony much this season. Ancient Teachings is our primary source of healing. This is our damage conversion and it provides healing through Tiger Palm, Blackout Kick, and Rising Sun Kick, with the largest portion being from Rising Sun Kick. Tiger Palm is a small single target meleeing damaging ability. Tiger Palm also generates stacks of Teachings of the Monastery. With the current talent setup, one Tiger Palm will give 2 stacks of Teachings of the Monastery, with a maximum of 4 stacks at a time. Blackout Kick is a cleaving melee damaging ability which will consume the stacks of Teachings of the Monastery and also have a chance to reset the cooldown on Rising Sun Kick. And Rising Sun Kick is a large single target melee damaging ability. This is what has a chance of being reset when you use Blackout Kick, and this reset mechanic takes up a large portion of our gameplay loop. Overall, Rising Sun Kick is one of our most important abilities, both for the healing and the damage that it does, as well as additional interactions between other parts of our kit. Rapid Diffusion is a talent that will give Renewing Mist to an ally when using Rising Sun Kick, and Rising Mist is how we extend our HOTS through Rising Sun Kick. This is mostly passive and just used for maintenance, but it's also common to leverage this during certain cooldowns. Spinning Crane Kick is our main AoE damaging ability. It takes up a lot of our globals over the course of a dungeon, with it being more prevalent in dungeons with many large poles. This is our other form of damage conversion to healing through Way of the Crane. Way of the Crane is the healing portion of Spinning Crane Kick, and it also allows Tiger Palm to strike twice and Blackout Kick to cleave. Renewing Mist is our main heal over time, and the uptime on this should be relatively high. Most of the Renewing Mist uptime is done through maintenance through Rapid Diffusion, but it's not uncommon to spend your stacks as you head into the next pack. The healing that it does by itself isn't very high, but with talents like Lotus Infusion, we can use it as an amp, and Mistline helps with a little bit of priority healing. Enveloping Mist is another heal over time, but more importantly, it is a heal amp, 20% with the recommended talents. This also interacts with Rapid Diffusion. This is used for heavy damage intake as part of our ramp, generally used on 2 or 3 people who will be taking the most damage. This is also a key part of one of our other cooldowns, which we will talk about later. Shaylin's Gift is our main cast heal. This can generate up to 10 stacks, known as clouds. The more clouds, the more healing it does, though due to current tuning on this, we really don't use it very often, and it's sort of a last resort button. Soothing Mist does a decent amount of healing by itself with this build, but in the end it is still a tool that we use. When channeling Soothing Mist, you can cast Enveloping Mist and Shaylin's Gift instantly, and be able to freely swap targets without breaking your channel. We really only use Soothing Mist if we're casting 3 or more Enveloping Mist or Shaylin's Gifts in a row, or if you need the 6% DR from Elusive Mist. Thunder Focus Tea is a button that modifies some of our regular abilities. Enveloping Mist will heal instantly and is instant cast, Renewing Mist gets a longer duration, and Rising Sun Kick has its cooldown reduced. For Thunder Focus Tea and keys, we are always using this with Rising Sun Kick. Mana Tea is our active mana management. You don't need to overthink this one too much, just make sure that you're drinking down your stacks every now and then to regain mana over the course of a dungeon, so you don't need to stop and drink. Our rotation has been heavily simplified, so for target counts up to 4, Rising Sun Kick, Double Tiger Palm, and Blackout Kick is your highest for healing and for damage. Once you have 5 or more targets, Rising Sun Kick on cooldown with Spinning Crane Kick in between will be your highest healing and damage. If the damage you're taking is more than your damage conversion can handle, then you are needing to send some sort of cooldown. We have a lot of really short cooldowns that will help us in between the maintenance healing, so utilizing them and making sure that you're not sitting on them too long is a really key part of Mistweaver. Life Cocoon is a single target shield. It's very good on DPS and healers, but it tends to be weaker on tanks just due to the health differences, though it does depend on what mechanic you're trying to prevent with it. With the recommended talents and hero talents, this usually ends up being around a 55-second cooldown or so it is available quite often. Revival is a single heal event that will also dispel any magic, disease, or poison effects that are active. It heals a decent amount, but there are times where you'll just be using it for the dispel. Keep in mind, it does heal before it dispels, so try to remember that if anyone is low health and you're also trying to dispel and heal. Celestial Conduit is the hero talent active ability. This does pulsing damage and healing for the duration of the channel, so it's pretty straightforward as a cooldown. It will also activate all of your celestial buffs at greater effectiveness after the channel. During Celestial Conduit, you can still cast any ability that doesn't do damage or healing. This is things like Roll, Dispel, Leg Sweep, Ring of Peace, Transcendence, Paralysis, and for some reason Touch of Death is included in this even though it technically does damage. Spirit Font isn't necessarily a cooldown, but we do treat it like one in keys. The proc can be used whenever it's needed, but if you're forcing a proc through Thunder Focus Tea, then I would consider it a cooldown use. This is good to use when you can't be a melee but need throughput, or need additional support in your damage conversion or Chi-Ji windows. Chi-Ji is our primary healing cooldown. We have the choice between it being a 1 minute or a 2 minute cooldown. Generally, when I am starting a season, I will start with 1 minute and then change it to 2 minutes depending on the dungeon requirements, but with Chi-Ji, you're having a couple of things going on with this cooldown. On button press, when you activate Chi-Ji, Chi Cocoons will proc on your group, which are just small shields. If you're playing Gift of the Celestials, you will get normal Chi Cocoons. If you are Jade Bond, these Chi Cocoons will be twice the size, and when they break, they will apply Enveloping Mist to the targets. For both forms of Chi-Ji, you will gain 4 stacks of Teachings of the Monastery when you press the button. The main source of healing during Chi-Ji with this build are the Chi Cocoons and Enveloping Mist. With no mastery, your Gust of Mist will do virtually nothing. So if you're pressing Chi-Ji, you're either using it for the Chi Cocoons or for the Enveloping Mist spread that you get, as they are instant and a reduced mana cost, or you're using it for the movement impairing effect immunity. This build doesn't necessarily have a rotation for Chi-Ji, you're just pressing it when you need the additional healing and then going back to whichever damage rotation you were doing before based on the target count. Paralysis is a single target stop that can be used to delay an interrupt, stop a patrol, or facilitate skips in some situations. If you're talented into pressure points, then this will also become a soothe, allowing you to remove enrage effects. Leg sweep is just a basic AoE stun. Disable is our slow, which is single target application but can be extended through any of our damaging abilities. And if you're talented into Still Step Coil, your leg sweep will apply disable to all of the enemies that it hits. You just need to be in melee when the leg sweep expires. Ring of Peace is a displacement ability that does not trigger combat, so you can use it to manipulate mobs for skips or to prevent accidental pulling. It can also be used to keep mobs away from players with threat or fixates, tank relief, and stopping casts. Transcendence is more personal utility and movement for positioning, but you can occasionally aid in skips or help negate some mechanics. With Transcendence Linked Spirits, you can then port to a player instead of a position, so this can help you get a lot more creative with your Transcendence use. If there's any major updates, I will post another video, but until then, the website wayofthecrane.io will always be the most up to date.